All right, well, we might as well get started today. Yesterday we started with this beat the goalie game, and today we're going to add to that. So that was beat the goalie 1. Technically, this assignment won't be given to you until tomorrow. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a copy of this. Save as a copy. And now instead of beat the goalie 1 copy, we'll just call this beat the goalie 2. Alright, so if you remember from yesterday, we're just going to rewind with what we've done so far. We created it so that the ball moves back and forth, and if I push the space bar, it's going to score a goal. The penguin yells goal if you hit the put it in, and there should be cheers in the background. And if I kick the ball and it hits the goalie, it's a save, and it should make a rattling noise. So that's what we had accomplished so far. Today we're going to add a new variable. So we're going to create a new variable. We're going to add a timer to this so that the game has a purpose. It'll be like, see how many goals you can score in 30 seconds. And then we're going to add some additional things to it to make it a more interesting game. So the first thing I have to do if I'm going to create a timer is I have to create a new variable. So we're going to go down to variables and make a variable, and we'll call this one timer. So now I have a variable in the upper right hand corner, and I'm going to put it on my stage. So I click over on the stage, and now I'm going to set up what the timer actually does. And so whenever I first click the green flag, it is going to make it so that my timer gets set to 30. So in order to do that, I need to go into add my set timer to down in variables. I'm going to have the timer get set to 30. Now whenever I click this green flag, you see it starts at 30, but it stays at 30. Now we have to add some more controls into this. And I'm going to have to do a repeat until control. So I'll put a repeat until control in. And I'm going to make it until the timer equals 0. So if I come down to operators, you put this into here. I'll set this until equals 0. And I have to put timer in as my variable. So I come back down to variables and just drag the timer block in. So now something's going to happen to this timer until it comes down to 0. And we'll put a wait command in. So it's going to wait 1 second. And then we'll do a change. So change timer by. Now, if I do it by 1, it's going to add 1 second to my timer each time. So this would be going up 31, 32, and it'll do that forever. So I need to make this a -1 so that it's dropping my timer down. Now when I click the green flag, you should see that my timer starts dropping 1 second at a time until it hits 0. Now, just because my timer is counting down doesn't necessarily mean that anything's going to happen when that timer hits 0. Because we haven't actually programmed anything to happen when the timer hits 0. So when it hits 0, it's not like my game stops. It still continues. I can still keep kicking this ball over and over again to keep keep trying to score a goal, regardless of how long the timer is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new sound in, and it's going to play the sound whistle until it's done. And whenever that happens, I'm going to put a stop command in so that it stops everything. So if I come down to control, and then I can do stop all. And just for the sake of time, I'm going to set my timer to 10 seconds. So it starts at 10, and now whenever it comes down to the end here, it is going to play a whistle sound, and the timer is going to stop. And you notice my ball stops too. If I click the space bar, now that doesn't do anything, so my game is officially over. Okay, so the current format of the game is that if I started this and kicked the ball one time, I scored a goal, but now nothing else happens. All that happens is my timer keeps counting down until it hits 0, plays the whistle sound, and now it's done. No matter what I do, I can't do anything else. So once I score that first goal, the game is over. And because of that, it doesn't really make sense for, I wouldn't really even call this a game. I mean, we have a timer running for 30 seconds, and I have 30 seconds to score one goal. That's probably not all that challenging. So the thing about a game is you have to make it so that it's even a little more challenging than that, or not even necessarily so challenging, but rather that there's a point to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so that I can continue to kick this ball time after time over and over again. And the easiest way to do that would be to just drop a forever loop in over this entire bit of code. So see, if I drag the forever block over, and it'll actually put a gray highlight on all of the code that's going to go inside of this. And I can reclip it, the green flag being clicked. And now, as soon as I kick the ball, it starts over again, regardless of whether it's a save or not. And my timer continues to run until I hit 0. Once it hits 0, I can no longer kick the ball. So if that forever loop is going to make it so that I can continue to play the game and go over and over again. Any questions so far? Okay. So another option here would be to make it so that our goalie does something. And so I want to make it so that we could have two different people playing the game at the same time. We could have one person controlling the goalie and one person trying to kick the ball. So if I want to do that, what I'll actually do is I'll click on my goalie here, and I'll make it so that I can move him just using basic commands we've learned already. So I'll put a new event in, and I'll say when the left arrow key is pressed, and then go into motion, and I'll put change X by. Now if I'm going left, that's going to be going into the negatives, so I'm going to change this by -10. And then I'll do the same thing Now that when I push my left arrow key, it's moving the goalie to the left by -10. And now I'll drop a new when the right arrow is pressed. It changes it by 10. So now I can make my goalie go left and right and try to stop it. Just by holding the key down, it makes it so that it's not so glitchy, the movements. So now when I start the game, I can try to kick the ball and try to block it at the same time. Ideally, this would be better if I had two people playing the game. This wouldn't make sense for me to try to compete against myself. Alright, so it's kind of easy to predict when the ball is moving left and right, how I should move my goalie to try to stop the ball. So we can add an additional bit to this code to make it a little bit more challenging for whoever would be playing the goalie. And that would be to go into the soccer ball. I'll get rid of when move 10 steps and if on the edge stuff, because I'll make it so that someone else could be controlling the soccer ball with the A and D buttons. So I'll get rid of my repeat until code, because we don't necessarily have to have that happen. One second here. I wish I had an undo button on this. So if I just get rid of that code inside of there, where inside of the repeat until the space key is pressed, if I get rid of the move 10 steps and if on edge bounce, I can now add a new control in. And I'll actually leave the repeat until the key space key is pressed in there, because if I get rid of that, then what that does is it actually changes my function of the game, and it would make it so that the ball is getting kicked every time. So what I'll do is I'll just put a new section of code in, and I'll make this when A is pressed, and under motion, it'll change X by -10. And I'll put another event in so that whenever the D button is pressed, Then I'll have it move right so that it changes X by 10. So now I can control the ball based on whether I'm pushing the A and D buttons, and then push space bar whenever I want to kick it. So now the person controlling the ball would be using A and D, and the person controlling the penguin trying to get the save would be using my left and right arrow keys. So now it makes the game a little more competitive because you don't know where the ball is going to move. If I want to make it even more challenging for the goalie, I could be changing my X by, say, 15 or negative 15, so that the ball is moving faster than the goalie. But you would really have to mess with those numbers in order to make it fair for both sides of the game. See, if the ball is moving faster than the goalie does, then it makes it difficult for the goalie to get a stop. All right, that's about it for today. Tomorrow, we are just going to add in, so technically this assignment doesn't get continued on until tomorrow. So tomorrow we're just going to add in keeping a score, and that's about it. Anybody have any questions?